Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things underneath the way common sense lens. And obviously, a lot of us were probably very cautiously optimistic when we first initially heard about the new Harry Potter television series from HBO Max. Obviously, we know there's been a lot of changes behind the scenes over there at Warner Brothers Discovery. A lot of house cleaning has been done. A lot of bad creatives that they had behind are responsible for a lot of the very bad decisions that the company had made over the last few years, including a lot of stuff that they've done with DC and other projects out there, of course, had now been removed and new people had been put in charge. So a lot of people were cautiously optimistic about the new Harry Potter franchise out there. A lot of the new casting out there that we'd heard initially was very, very good. And then, of course, a lot of controversy has now happened since then. But boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the important thing to remember here today is that we have a very first look at our new Harry Potter, ladies and gentlemen, because production has officially started on the new series out there, and we got our first look at our very new Harry Potter, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're going to check out right over here from Variety.com, because we've got our very first look, Harry Potter first look. The new boy wizard debuts as HBO series begins filming, sets 2027 release date. So we're going to check out these pictures. We're going to get all the juicy details of what we know about the series as far as what it's going to go forward as well. But of course, we have to talk about the giant elephant in the room as well, which could end up causing a great detriment to the careers of not only the characters that are playing all of these children, but everybody else involved with that, because I have this funny feeling this is going to end up being a series because of decisions made inside the Warner Brothers casting room, that this could be a series that at most maybe last 2 or 3 seasons, but I doubt it will end up making it past one, because of some major changes they've made that have caused detriments to the story and completely and totally changed the way things go. But needless to say, let's check out the kid, because this has nothing to do with him in any way, shape, or form. And of course, you know what? Is nothing bad on him, and he looks like he's got a really great look for Harry Potter. So we're going to check out this article, getting all of the juicy details, and of course, go on to all of everything else. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description down below. And of course, please go out there and share. Let us know what you think about all of this in the comment section down below. Do you like the look of the new Harry Potter? Do you think it's a little bit more accurate to the books than Daniel Radcliffe was? Or do you prefer the old look? Are you excited for the HBO series? Are you willing to give it a shot even with all the controversy? Or are you like a lot of the fans out there that simply decided to go nope on this thing and are just going to sit back and watch it burn? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. All right, from Variety.com and Alex Rittman and Elisa Schaefer. I mean, this isn't a very long article. Why did you need 2 people for this? Hogwarts has reopened for a new term. HBO's Harry Potter TV series, the long-awaited and much-hyped return to J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World, and one of the few IPs that Warner Brothers has that is still very much profitable. We'll see how that works out after the show. Has officially started production at Warner Brothers Studio Leveston in the UK. Almost 14 years to the day that the Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2 concluded Harry's journey on the big screen. And I know a lot of people were huge fans of that movie. Those movies out there, I was not a big fan of them. I think there was just too many drastic changes from the books that really kind of took me out of the whole series. I mean, Dumbledore yelling at Harry Potter in that 4th book, in that 4th movie, I was basically done at that point. And I'm sorry, no peeves, no peace. Plus completely and totally screwing over Ron's character and taking all of his heroic lines away from him and giving them to Hermione. Yeah, I got a lot of issues with those movies. If you love them, that's fine. Enjoy them all you want. But as a hardcore fan of the books, I cannot stand those movies. And I was one of those guys that was really excited when they said they were going to do a faithful adaptation, give us 1 season per book, and actually be able to flesh everything out, include all of the characters, actually be able to do all the stuff that they want. And of course, they had to make Snape black. The show has also revealed the first look at Dominic McLaughlin as Harry Potter, smiling in costume with the character's signature round glasses and school uniform. McLaughlin is joined by Arabelle Stanton as Hermione Granger and Alistair Stout as Ron Weasley. The young trio were selected from more than 30,000 actors who auditioned in a casting call last fall. New casting announced on Monday included Rory Wilmot as Neville Longbottom, Amos Kitson as Dudley Dursley, which I don't, if I remember seeing the picture of him correctly, I don't think he's quite big enough. But either way, maybe I can ask him to put some pounds on. Louis Brealey, well, I guess not. It'd be a little too late for that. But either way, Louis Brealey as Madame Rolanda, Hooch, and Anthony Lesser as Garrick Ollivander. And see, we were so hoping out there for Peter Capaldi. Well. The series also has been confirmed for debut in 2027 on HBO and HBO Max where available. Led by showrunner Francisco Gardner and director Mark of Succession, HBO's new show takes on the beloved turn book-based franchise and yada, 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 yada. We know all of that. But here's your first look at the kid. And honestly, I think he looks great. I really do. I think they've really done a good job of this, because I think one of the issues I had with Daniel Radcliffe is his hair wasn't quite as messy, I don't think, as what it should have been properly, right? From the way it's described in the books. Also, there's even some illustrations in the original books out there showing the way Harry Potter's face and head is kind of shaped. And if you look at it properly in some of the pictures, it's kind of shaped like a V, right? It's kind of narrow. He's got a very kind of narrow chin, and his head kind of gets bigger and wider at the top. Now, I don't know if this kid's head is actually shaped like this or if it's just a hairdo, but the fact that they put this much effort into making it look that similar to what we saw in those books and in some of those illustrations from the books, I really do appreciate that. The kid looks great as the character. The casting is really, really spot on, and he'll probably do an absolutely fantastic job, right? And I'm super excited for it. I hope he enjoys it. I hope he has a good time. But we have to talk about the giant elephant in the room. The kid looks great. I'm excited for him. No hate on him. No hate on him at all. No hate on any of the actors involved in this production whatsoever, because they're not the people that make the casting decisions, right? They're not the people that know the stories and end up deciding to make decisions. They're just people wanting to work, right? Or they're just a kid wanting to get their start in productions in Hollywood. Do all that kind of stuff. Childhood dream, go out there, be a star, make all this money, have your name in the lights, all that kind of fun stuff. Hey, who didn't think about something like that as a kid? So I don't blame any of these actors for taking the jobs. I don't blame Papa Asuda for taking the role of Snape either. A guy's got to eat. A guy's got to work. It's an iconic role. Either he didn't understand the story and the franchise, or he simply didn't care. One of the two. But at the end of the day, it's not his fault. It's not this kid's fault that this show could very potentially completely and totally ruin his career going forward. Because this isn't a series that's going to last. They are not going to make it to the final series. They're not going to make it to the final book for a couple of different reasons. One, Warner Brothers Discovery is broke. Warner Brothers Discovery is broke. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. Okay, we know that from their financial records. They've been downgraded to a junk stock status, right? Because they are so far in debt. Superman's looking okay at the box office right now. They've had a couple of hits here or there. They've had some surprise hits this year, but it's not enough to make up for the massive amounts of debt that they're in. And if something is not working, at the end of the day, 2 + 2 still equals 4, and if things are going to have to be cut. And if the series' ratings for this show, for this new Harry Potter reboot, are abysmal and in the toilet, it will not last. They cannot afford to keep producing it. And the problem is, they've already dumped $1 billion at minimum into this based on the sets, the campuses, and the facilities that they've already built. And here, of course, is the problem. Here's the giant elephant in the room. Papa Asuda, right? A guy out there who apparently, from everything that I've heard, is an incredibly acclaimed actor. Does a really, really good job in a lot of the stuff he's done. But here's the problem. Anybody that's read the Harry Potter books, anybody that understands them, anybody that knows the story between James Potter and Severus Snape, James and his friends, and Severus, the outsider, the guy who had probably grew up poor, that's pretty much how he's kind of described, lower class in the books, right? Now you're going to have a bunch of kids from a middle school, from like probably middle income, maybe slightly higher income, above average maybe, now picking on a poor, instead of just picking on a poor little kid, right, and making fun of him because his hair is greasy and he smells and he's always got his nose in a book and, yada, yada, yada. Instead of doing all of that, now you're going to have a bunch of white kids picking on a black kid in school, right? You're now going to add that element to it. And maybe that's not something thought of as much in the United Kingdom as it is here in the United States and in most of Western civilization, but you need to understand that the majority of your audience for things like this, HBO Max, and honestly most of Western television out there, unless it's specifically written for a country out there, is meant for an American audience, right? That's where you're going to see your biggest success. That's where you're going to hit your most profits. HBO Max is based in a company in the United States, right? So you have to deal with American politics. You have to deal with the American culture and what it thinks about things and how our history has shaped our worldview, right? And any American out there that watches James Potter string up a black Severus Snape to a tree, even though he's hung by his foot, is going to end up automatically thinking this is nothing more than a race allegory. The fact that you race swapped a character that is specifically so graphically described in the books as pale, long-nosed, long, greasy, jet black hair, right? J.K. Rowling even has a drawing of him, said he looked a little bit too much like Count Chocula, right? He's supposed to have a vampire-esque look to him. One of Harry's first interactions when he goes to Hogwarts is to automatically be suspicious of Severus Snape because he looks greasy and shady. Now your hero of the story, if you actually stick to how it goes in the books, your white hero of the story, his first reaction to getting to Hogwarts, one of his first reactions to some of his teachers, will be to automatically be suspicious of a black man. How do you think that's going to go over? And whether or not they did it intentionally, they did, it's going to end up coming off that way. That's exactly how it's going to be taken. And now you're going to have Harry Potter's parents, James and Lily by proxy, end up being turned into nothing more than a bunch of racists. Heroes from the war between Voldemort and the original group that took him down, the original Order of the Phoenix that took him down, that helped take him down, right? Now it's going to be a race allegory. Now you're going to have a bunch of white people going after Snape because Snape was never really a good guy. He didn't really have like a heel turn and all of a sudden loved Harry Potter and was looking after him and actually secretly was always trying to take care of him. No, the only reason Snape ever did anything good for Harry was because of Severus's love for his mother Lily. That's the only reason he was ever willing to do anything to help Harry out, and even the slightest. It's the only reason he was willing to save his life. It's the only reason he was willing to protect him from Voldemort. Voldemort killing Lily is what broke Severus. It was his change. It didn't turn him into a good guy. He didn't hate Harry any less because Harry looked just like James. And he hated James Potter with every fiber of his being because of the way he treated him in school. And it's all completely justified. Anybody that's been bullied out there understands. The problem was Severus made bad choices with the way he was treated in school. He decided to go down a dark path and become a villain. And he never really was any better than that. But at the end of the day, losing the one woman that he loved in this world caused him to violate and betray the man that he had sworn loyalty to, the Dark Lord, and decided to side with Dumbledore instead. Okay? He's not a good guy. He is a bad person. Okay? He just now has been forced to do good because of how far he saw evil actually go. He saw that evil will betray him no matter what he thinks. Because that's what Voldemort did to him. It does not make Snape a good guy. Snape is a villain and is always mistrusted by everyone because they know he was a Death Eater. He was one of the bad guys. So how's that going to work out for this series? How having that giant albatross around their neck, having that giant elephant in the room of having a black Snape, knowing what that story entails, how is that going to work out for this cute, adorable kid over here who just wanted to be Harry Potter? And that's what you should be angry about. Don't get mad at me. Don't call me a racist for pointing out what's obviously going to happen if they actually stick to the story of the books and don't completely change everything like they did with Wheel of Time and Rings of Power. And we already know if they actually do that, how well that'll end up working out. But it doesn't matter. They're screwed from the get-go. These kids, these careers involved in this show are screwed from the get-go. John Lithgow, who said there's a very good possibility this will be the last major role of his career. Because this, if it lasted, which it won't, if it lasted the full 7 or 8 seasons they're going to do with this, if it lasted that long, it would be the last thing of his job because he's very old at this point. And you know what? I hope he gets better work after this show is canceled because this show will get canceled. It will not make it to 7 seasons. I promise you that. Warner Brothers is too broke and the ratings will be too bad. And it's too bad for this kid. And it's too bad for the rest of these kids that have been casting this. And it's too bad for John Lithgow, and it's too bad for Papa Asuti. But at the end of the day, he took the job. Whether or not he knew anything about the Harry Potter story and what the relationship with Snape and everyone else in the story was or not, it doesn't matter. He took the job. And if he didn't know, fine. Plead ignorance, that's fine. And as long as you don't come out there and attack a bunch of fans when your show gets canceled and your show's in the toilet and your ratings are in the toilet, I'm never going to blame you. I'm going to blame the people inside in charge of Warner Brothers because it's them that made these decisions. It's the executives inside of those companies that screwed over this kid's first shot at stardom, that screwed over the rest of these childhood's first chance at stardom. because they decided to do a race swap of a character that is primarily a villain and will now turn the entire Harry Potter story into nothing more than a race allegory. A British story into an American race allegory because they decided to not stick with how characters are described in the books. Like I said, I feel bad for the kids because at the end of the day, the buck stops with David Zaslav. This is his fault. And I might give him praise for a lot of the good things he's done, but David Zaslav and everybody else that was in charge of the casting decisions and everybody that was in charge of hiring the people that were in charge of the casting decisions, this is your fault. This show is going to turn into a disastrous dumpster fire. It is going to ruin people's careers. And it is going to end up putting nothing more than a giant egg on your face. Warner Bros. Has already invested $1 billion, if not more, into this television show. It is going to blow up in their faces because they made the exact same mistake that so many other people have made out there in Hollywood for years. They thought the fans were stupid and that we weren't going to care about a race swapping and a gender swapping. Because especially they didn't know the source material and they certainly didn't understand why things happen the way they do in certain books and why characters have to be described in certain ways. They think anything can be used as a skin suit for their personal agenda. And it is going to screw over a lot of people in the process and is going to cost Warner Brothers Discovery billions of dollars. And you know what? You've done it to yourself, David Zaslav. I just feel bad for the cast and all the kids involved in this that were looking for a shot at stardom that are only going to end up being in a show that will maybe last a few seasons, but it turns into a disastrous dumpster fire and the ratings simply cannot justify. They will not be able to spin it that the ratings are actually a success to continue justifying this show going forward. So shout out to the new kid. He looks spot on as Harry Potter. I absolutely love the look. I'm sorry that a bunch of your bosses made really stupid decisions that are going to screw over your career right at the get-go. At the end of the day, fans will decide, and the Harry Potter reboot with a black Snape will fail. And Warner Brothers Discovery, you will get exactly what you deserve. Enjoy burning billions of dollars on this disastrous dumpster fire.